everybody. I hope you're doing well. It's good to be back. I was talking to my client today, and I was reminded of a story from when I was 19 years old, and I used to work for a theater company. That theater company was very weird. I had a few very weird experiences there. But one day we had some kind of fundraiser or some sort of to-do, and the office manager asked me to come down and help get some stuff out of his car from the event the night before. So I'm all loaded up with banker boxes and what have you, and we get into the elevator and we're headed on our way up, and he says to me, "Well, Laura, this is your last day. We just had to make some changes and I have to let you go. And you didn't seem like the kind of girl that needed a cup of cocoa and a tampon." And I was so shocked. I had no warning that this was coming at all. I was completely shocked. And if he did it to me now, I would have thrown his shit out of the elevator. Don't ask me I may not need a tampon and a hot chocolate, but I certainly don't need to be your pack mule and unload your car. Squeeze a little more juice out of the teenager before you drop the bomb. Well, there had been this other assistant floating around the office, and there'd been lots of gossip about him, that he was a male escort and that he'd been flirting with the manager. And so when I got the axe, everyone said, "You watch, he's going to hire that guy full time." And that's exactly what happened. So fast forward like a year, maybe two, and I'm living in Santa Cruz now. And I'm the only straight person in the apartment. And the guys had some rather goofy entertainment options. And one of them liked to host a porn night where he would curate porn for the guys, and I would be hidden in my room because I didn't need. And they would watch it like, they were watching the Muppet movie or something, in the Great Muppet Caper. Only there weren't Muppets, there was just caper. And so one day I had to get something to drink, so I cut through to the kitchen, and I've got my beverage, and I'm headed back to my room. I walk behind the sofa, and the TV is there. I glanced over because activity, and I was so shocked, and I knew the face that was on that screen, and I hollered out, just completely involuntary, "I lost my job" to that man. And the 5 or 6 drag queens nearly broke their necks snapping to all look at me, because the only job they know that man has is the one where he's being serviced by another gentleman. don't give a shit about sex workers. I mean, I care about them as human beings. I don't judge. You know, you gotta pay the rent. You're willing to do that. You're able to get somebody to pay you. I'm not gonna interfere with it at all. But it was a very weird experience, and it felt like a very small world kind of moment. And then there was another incident at that same theater company where we had to, when we had downtime, we had to call and see if we could get people to renew their subscriptions to the theater company. And I'm working through the list of names, and I get to a name that looks familiar to me. And I called and, identified who I was and why I was calling. And I got bawled out so bad that other people in the office could hear what was going on. And it was like a scene in a movie where the music stops and everybody looks. It was, and again, too young to know. I could have just hung up. Or I could have told him to fuck off. I could have done a lot of things. Instead, I stayed on the phone and I took the abuse. Whew! The person who was talking to me in this really horrible way was a very famous TV dad that you would never in a million years ever imagine that he would speak like that to anybody. It was so shocking. So I hung up the phone. I was rattled. And then I found out later he was in very, very difficult financial situation because he had AIDS, and it was the late 80s or early 90s, and there was no manageable outcome at that time. It was just the plague. So, knowing what I know now, I was able to have some compassion for his outburst. But I do know it did teach me a lot, because when I lose my temper on the phone all the time, mostly with phone bots. Oh my God, phone bots are the worst. And then it turns out they record everything you say so the operator knows how angry you are before they pick up the phone. Once I get a human, I'm fine. But I am a monster to AI. I really am. When AI develops feelings, it's going to be a big adjustment for me, because I get so frustrated and I just tell it off. Especially when it says, "I'm so sorry to hear your frustration." You're not sorry. Sorry means that you feel something. So stop play acting. Makes me crazy. But I don't talk to people on the phone. Humans, I'm very nice to humans on the phone, even when I get mad. Because nobody needs to get an earful of shitty spice. That's their job, and they do it every day. And if they're in another country, it means somebody's found a way to pay somebody a fraction of what they would pay in the United States. usually take a pause and I say, listen, I'm getting heightened right now. I don't feel like we're addressing the situation. And if you say it calmly, and if you say it nicely, and if you don't call somebody names, they can make an adjustment too. I had one guy who I was getting really angry, but I wasn't the anger generator. It was the guy on the other end of the phone. He was getting very frustrated with the questions I was asking, and he started raising his voice. So I started raising my voice. And then at a certain point, I was feeling emotional, and I said, wait a minute. You work for the insurance company, and I work for the attorney, and you and I are speaking to each other in a very disrespectful way. Maybe we can take a minute and realize that we're trying to help somebody else get something done. You are not the enemy, and I am not the enemy. We just need to find a peaceful way to resolve this. And he took that on. He adjusted, I adjusted. We had a really successful resolution to the phone call. It was good. But my God, I haven't thought about that theater company in years. And I haven't thought about who I was at 19 in years. It's funny when a moment just takes you back. Oh my goodness. This is such a nice summer so far. I mean, I'm not anywhere where there's screwworm or, lightning storms or, I hope wherever you are, you're having a lovely time of it too. If you're in a place where it's winter, I hope you're having a lovely winter. I don't have very much more to add. I just, went down memory lane and thought I would share that story. I'll talk to you later.